we are doing another giveaway. We just gave away a bow. Thank you to the folks over at Matthews. And now we're doing another giveaway. This time we're giving away not one, but two brand new Reveal Cell Cam, the Ultra model. Two Ultras. So one winner, two cameras. One of you is going to win a trail camera. One tag, 1 week, one shot to make it count. This is for the hunters who hit the road and get after it, no matter the odds. This is Drawn West. Welcome back to another Drawn West podcast brought to you by GOHUNT. This is an exciting bonus episode because number one, we are currently out chasing mule deer. If you're listening to this, super excited. Abby and I are out on the slopes. We're recording this at a time. Two, we are doing another giveaway. We just gave away a bow. Thank you to the folks over at Matthews. And now we're doing another giveaway. This time we're giving away not one, but two brand new Reveal Cell Cam, the Ultra model. Two Ultras. So one winner, two cameras. One of you is going to win a trail camera. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit. And we're going to be talking about the new Whitetail Drawn West gear list. So if you guys are watching this, I got the paper version up right now. It's got all the gear you need for a mid-season whitetail. We got it set up for archery. It would work great for firearm or rifle too. Just swap out the bow for a rifle, arrows for ammo, and you'll be good to go. We also have this version in a mobile friendly. So if you get the Acrobat reader, it comes up as an app just like this. And the cool thing about the mobile version is it's live. You can check the boxes as you're packing. You can go down there and add your own custom. This is what I actually am using for our mule deer hunt. So you can see I got generator, podcast list, camera kits, propane, gas tank, 2-inch ball. You can add your own custom items and then check those off. And just like the elk, the Whitetails got links to a majority of the gear we use and trust. Everything that we've got a link for, if you're curious what we use, there's a link icon. The nice thing that we added this time is if you see the little dollar sign on the app, either the mobile version or the print version, I'm holding it up to the camera right now, these little dollar signs means you could get 10% off if you use the code DRAWNWEST on that link. So really excited about the mid-season archery whitetail checklist. Completely free to get. Sign up, no credit card required. We just want it to be easy for each and every one of you to bring the gear you need to be successful to deer camp. So we're going to cover that list in today's episode. But first, let's get back to the giveaway. Like I said, two Reveal Ultra cameras. One person's going to win two cameras. This is about a $400 value, folks. Super exciting. We just put 3 of these up on our farm, and we already got pictures rolling in. It's crazy. My phone's been going off while I've been recording this already. And so here's how you get signed up to win the Reveal Ultras. Go to our website, getdrawnwest.com. Get yourself signed up. It's with your email. You're going to get 1 point for signing up. You're going to get 10 points if you go and follow us on Instagram. So there's a little link on that getdrawnwest.com/giveaway. There's a little link down there. It says Instagram. You click that, head over to Instagram, either follow us or make sure you're following us. And then it goes back to the app, claim your points. It'll automatically track, which is really cool. One of the things we learned from the last giveaway when we did the bow giveaway, people love giveaways, ironically. Who would have thought? And we got a lot of people sign up for the bow giveaway, and we had a lot of emails that I had to go through. And most of you know it took me a long time to get through them all. So I built an app. I built a software app to do giveaways. So when you sign up, you get 1 point, automatically gets added to your total under your email, your name and email. Follow us on Instagram, 10 points get automatically added to your total. And at the bottom of that page, there's a point tracker. You can see live how many points you have. I will show you all right now on my phone because I have this website up. Believe it or not, I have been testing this out many times. And so if I go to the website right now on my phone, and if you scroll all the way down, you can also do a check your entries feature. So right now I've got my email logged in, and I say check my totals. Of course, I checked every feature to make sure they were working. So it's saying I have 101 total entries. If you get signed up, your entries will be there too. Enter your email, go down, say check my entries. It'll tell you how many entries you have. So we said 1 for signing up, 10 for Instagram. If you follow the podcast on any platform, another 10 points. If you want to be super kind and follow us on a podcast platform and YouTube, that would really help because we're trying to hit 1,000 subs on YouTube, and we're at 954 the last time I checked. But you get 10 points for that. So you're going to go pick any platform. There's 3 buttons. Click it, head over there, follow us, make sure you're subscribed. If you're already subscribed, it'll still give you credit. So then you go back, claim your 10 points. That's 10 more. So now you're at 21. Then every podcast during this giveaway, this one included, later in this podcast, we are going to be giving away a code word. You go to the website, you enter that code word, hit claim. It's going to validate your code word and give you 20 points if you're right. And that's going to go towards your total. So at the end of this whole thing, there's 101 bonus points possible. You're going to get them all because I know you. I know from the bow giveaway, you guys rocked it. You guys crushed it. And this time, you don't have to wait for me to check my emails and get back to you all. You automatically know where you stand. So, like I said, later in this episode, we're going to be giving away a code word for the Reveal Ultra giveaway worth 20 points. So stick around. You don't want to miss the code word because it's 20 points. 20 times better odds to win the reveals. And so, with that, let's get started with today's episode. Whitetail gear list. So deer camp. One of the things that I have done since I left high school or graduated high school, went to college, is I've always had to travel to deer camp. And so over the years, I started assembling a checklist. It's always been in my Google Drive. Every year I add a little bit, I tweak it, but I print off a new list just like this one. It actually looks very much like this list that I'm holding in my hands. Just obviously without the branding. It never had any branding for the first couple of years, but I would just use it every year to make sure I didn't forget anything. And one of the things that I really try to do, and we talked about it a little bit with the rifle elk, but I try to reuse my gear across multiple different applications because gear is very expensive. You all know how expensive gear is. You know that I love Sitka. Sitka is one of the worst offenders on gear price. So if I'm going to be investing in Sitka gear, I need it to work for everything. And that means whitetail, it means elk, it means antelope, it means mule deer. I'm wearing some of the pieces that we're talking about right now. Currently, as I'm in Colorado, while you're listening to this, I'm in Colorado, I'm wearing this same stuff, right? I don't get this stuff for free. I don't even get, they're not sponsoring the podcast. I don't get any, I just get lucky and find sales. And that's how I purchase this stuff. So I don't have the dedicated dollars towards this to buy one of everything. I don't buy all the whitetail gear. I don't buy all the stuff. So I got to make sure I'm using it across multiple things. And let's talk today about the clothes. How can we reuse clothes that are designed for Western hunting in the whitetail woods? Because it's two drastically different things. When you're out west, when you're shed hunting, when you're elk hunting, when you're mule deer, antelope's usually pretty warm anyway. You're moving and grooving. You're staying warm. You're usually not worried about too much cold. Now, here's the kicker. If you start moving and grooving and you're sweating and then you go and stop moving suddenly, like you're going to start glassing, that can be kind of tricky. You don't want to be sweating and then stop and then all of a sudden you freeze because that wind and that sweat starts evaporating and it makes your clothes wet and it cools you off. So you want to make sure, I'll take a lot of clothes off to try to maintain the fact, like I want to be warm but not breaking a sweat. And so, but how do you use that same gear now when you're sitting in a tree and you're not moving at all? You're getting hit with all of the wind. That can be tricky. And so here's how I do it. On the top, having the right tool for the job can make all the difference in the world, and that applies for our Western hunts too.
especially if you're coming from the Midwest like myself, because if you don't have it, there's no going home to get it. That's why many of us Western hunters are also gear junkies. And the same is true for the folks over at GOHUNT. They have built the GOHUNT gear shop to be jam-packed full of the best, highest quality gear needed for your Western hunts. They try out everything that gets into the shop, and if they don't like it or if they don't use it, it doesn't make the cut. So if you need something for your next trip, GOHUNT has something for you in their gear shop. They've got everything from optics, camping gear, accessories, apparel, footwear. They've got packs. They've got some of the best brands in the industry. So if you're in the market for some new gear, consider checking out the GOHUNT Gear Shop. They're an avid supporter of the outdoors. They're supporters of this podcast. And most importantly, they're supporters of you. They want to help you be more successful in the West. So there's no better place to shop for your gear, information, or knowledge than GOHUNT. And if you use the code DRAWNWEST when you check out, you're going to get 10% off most of the regular priced items in the GOHUNT Gear Shop. So head over to GOHUNT.com, get the gear you need, use the code DRAWNWEST, and get the right tool for the job this fall. We kind of talked about it, but I always layer until late season. This is the mid-season whitetail. There is a late season, and we'll talk about it here in a couple minutes once we get through the list. But I layer. So whitetail, up until about 40 degrees, I can use all of this stuff, about freezing, the same stuff. And so we talked about having a base layer on top, right? Whether you like merino wool, I usually use some type of dry fit. The core lightweight top is what I use at Sitka. It's got the hood. I mentioned this on the last podcast, but if you missed it, I always buy my base layers with hoods, because that way, when I go to use them in the early season, Nebraska whitetail last year, 101 degrees. Antelope last year, 80 degrees. I'm using that lightweight top, but I don't want the sun beating down on my head and my neck all week. I'll get sunburned, especially me, I'm bald. So if I'm wearing a trucker hat, I'll get a sweet tan line on the back of my head. I always like a hood. So that way I have a hood to put up. Now, a lot of people like the crew necks. My wife likes a crew neck. That's okay. But if I bought the crew neck that it could be better for layering, then when I go to use it in the early season, I don't have the hood, and then I wouldn't wear it. So that's why I always buy the hood. So I'm starting there. Then I'm going, usually in the whitetail woods, I'm usually always wearing the mid layer. So for me, it's the heavyweight top. Again, has a hood. It could be, for you, it could be any type of sweatshirt, really. That's sweatshirt weight, right? So it's a little bit lighter than a heavy hoodie. It's not quite like the baseball, football, hockey hoodies that you get in high school. A little bit lighter weight than that, but it's a good amount of warmth. So I'm wearing that usually from bow opener, September 15th here in Minnesota, usually through the end of September, maybe early October, if we're still getting some warm weather. Those two cover me. Then if it starts to get a little windy or a little chilly, I'm throwing on my Jetstream. So the Jetstream is designed for Western hunting with tons of wind exposure, right? You're out west, you're on a ridge, you're going to get smoked by the wind. That Jetstream cuts all of the wind. It's windproof, right? So it's a windproof jacket. That's what I always put on here. I don't care what model you use, but when you combine a little bit of insulation and you keep the wind off, you're going to retain so much more heat. And then from there, I just start throwing in the thermal layers, the puffy vest, the puffy jacket, and I start building up what turns out to be a pretty warm upper system, except I'm not investing in a $600 jacket. I'm investing in a lot of small pieces that I can mix and match until I get the right amount of clothes for the weather conditions. So last time I went hunting, I was throwing on base layer, mid layer, then I put the windproof jacket on. That's actually all I wore. Abby did throw on, she has the puffy Kelvin Aerolite jacket. So that's a hooded puffy jacket underneath her Jetstream because she got a little colder, and that was about the perfect match. So that's one way that you can reuse your elk hunting or your Western hunting gear for whitetail. Or if you're thinking about buying better whitetail stuff, but you also want to start going elk hunting in the future, starting to think about it that way instead of going and buying the big, expensive, custom maybe not custom, but big expensive whitetail specific jacket. So here's one reason that I don't buy whitetail stuff, like the Sitka stuff. A lot of the dedicated whitetail gear is a fleece outer layer, right? And there's a good reason for it. If you're a dedicated whitetail only hunter, it's very quiet. That, you know, what's the key for whitetails? Sound and scent. They can't hear you, they can't smell you. As long as you don't move, they can't see you. Those are the big three. So it's quieter. It's way quieter. And I agree. It is way quieter. The fleece line stuff or the fleece outer stuff, super quiet. But how am I going to wear that on an antelope hunt when I'm bucking brush? How am I going to wear that when I'm chasing down mule deer and I'm getting burrs in it? How am I going to wear that out west? It's way too warm. It's going to get full of burrs. It's going to get full of all kinds of nasty stuff. It's going to get matted and tangled. It's going to be disgusting. That's why I don't buy those things for whitetail hunting. I buy things for elk hunting, mule deer hunting, shed hunting, and then I find ways to use them whitetail hunting. So that's just one thought process. If you're a dedicated whitetail hunter and you are never going to go out west and you always are going to hunt that way, maybe it makes more sense to go whitetail specific. I like to go pretty animal agnostic, and that way I can leverage things a lot more across different applications. So that's the top. On the bottoms do get a little trickier, right? Because out west, you're typically moving enough that you don't need a ton of insulation on the bottom half. Whitetail hunting, you're usually never moving that much. So your legs can get cold. So I'm usually going for maybe not the first 2 to 3, 4 weeks of season. I'm probably just wearing like my mountain pant or my Timberline pant. That's the pant with the knee pads. And little hack for everyone, if you're a saddle hunter, wearing pants with integrated knee pads is awesome, because then when you swing into the tree and kneel into the tree, you got a little knee pad right there ready to help save your knees. So I actually really like wearing Timberlines or mountain pants saddle hunting, and I always saddle hunt now. So I'll use just the pair of pants to begin with. Once it hits probably below 60, I'm going to start throwing on a light base layer. For me, I like the merino, the light bottoms. It's a merino. It's very, very thin. Man, how do you describe how thin it is? It's not much thicker than your dry fit top. It's a thin layer. You wouldn't think much of it, but it's crazy how much warmer your legs stay when you just add those 2 layers. I think it's almost as much about the heat retention that layer has versus just cutting like one more layer between the airflow. So if you're just wearing one pair of pants, that heat can move to that outer layer and then get absorbed or cut by the wind. 2 layers, it just helps, I think, reduce that airflow and reduce how much convection you lose, heat you lose through convection. So that'll bring me down to probably 50. Maybe all day sits at 50. I might go one step hotter, but if I'm just doing a half day, like an evening or a morning, down to 50 for sure. Under 50, that's when I'm throwing on the heavyweight bottoms. The same bottoms that I would wear maybe on a late, like this mule deer hunt, it's going to be down to 30 degrees in the mornings. I might be throwing on that heavyweight bottoms. We'll see how the day goes. If I'm doing a late season elk in Montana, I'm wearing that heavyweight, probably both, to be honest. And then I'm still reusing that for whitetail season. So that is how I get down to about 0 degrees. The boots, I wear my Kenetrex. I do. I know it's overkill for whitetails. I know a lot of people love the rubber boot gang. Here's what I find. I have bad ankles, so I don't like running around in rubber boots because it doesn't give me enough ankle support. I also find that rubber boots aren't as comfortable saddle hunting as a pair of laced boots. I feel like the ankle support also helps there. I do have a pair of Alpha Burleys or Mucks rubber boots that I will wear from time to time, especially if it gets colder, because there's more room inside those, so I can wear a bigger pair of socks and put like a heat pad down. But I just wear the same pair of boots, to be honest with you. Hats, they're pretty simple. We don't have to get into hats. That's how I get down to about 32 degrees. Now, here's the kicker. Mid-season archery whitetail, it can't, like the rut can be 0 degrees. I hunted one time 5 below. I actually wore my snowboarding goggles into the deer stand. I'm sitting there with snowboarding goggles. It was actually a hack. It was super cool because I could look straight into the wind, not have any snow in my eyes, cold. It was I didn't have an inch of skin showing. It was, and then I sat all day, did not see a buck until the evening when my dad came out. So it was a waste of time. But below 32 degrees, I do switch over. And this is the one time I mentioned it on the rifle elk gear list. I'm going to mention it today. This is the one time I switch over and pick something that only does one job. When it gets cold, I'm talking cold, I have the incinerator set. It's bibs and a jacket. It's the highest level whitetail warmth that they make. It's Gore-Tex. It's waterproof. It's windproof. It's very warm. And it's not the fleece outer lined. It's almost like the same material on the outside as the Jetstream. So not not the quietest, but I have that. And I bought it 50% off, which is, you have to, because it's very, very expensive. And I've had it now for, let me say, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably 7 or 8 years. Yeah, 7 or 8 years. So you break that cost down, it's like still brand new. I hardly put any abuse into it, and so that does get me all the way down to as cold as I want to whitetail hunt. And so that's the one thing I will switch out. So the pack list covers all of those. It's brand agnostic. So it's going to say thermal layer, mid layer, windproof shell. It's going to say stuff like that. 1 second, folks.
Hey friends, if you're listening to this podcast, I know you're an avid hunter just like myself, and we are always looking to get more time in the woods each season. One of the ways that's helped me get more time in the stand is by using Maverick hunting blinds. When I'm comfortable, I stay in the stand longer and I'm more focused on deer. I don't turn around so my hood cuts the wind, I'm not taking shelter from the rain, and the best way to stay comfortable is with a hard-sided blind, and my favorite is Maverick's XL blind, which allows me to rifle hunt, bow hunt out at the same stand. The best part is Maverick has a blind for every spot. So whether you're looking for a rifle only option or a bow and rifle, even a round blind to cut down some of that wind resistance, Maverick has you covered. No matter which option you go with, you're going to be comfortable and sit longer in the stand for all of your upcoming hunting seasons. Go to MaverickHunting.com and use the code DRAWNWEST, that's one word, DRAWNWEST, to get 10% off your next blind and elevate platform.
I apologize, I had to sneeze, and I didn't want you all to hear me sneeze. Heavyweight bottoms, lightweight bottoms, belt, boots, rubber boots, boot dryer, medium gloves, hand muff. I like a hand muff. I like a light pair of gloves inside a hand muff. So that way, if you pull it out to take your binos, you don't lose all of your hand heat. So that's one hack. You wear a thin, light pair of gloves. Sometimes I'm running just a insulated pair of leather gloves. Sometimes I'm using like the camo Traverse gloves from Sitka. When it's really cold, I'm usually wearing choppers and thin gloves and the muff. But that's the clothes. So now moving into hunting gear. All right. This is a big one. I think this is where you're going to pave the way. No matter how long you're going whitetail hunting for, if you're just going for the evening, but you're not like, you're got to drive to your spot, or if you're going for the weekend, or if you're going for the week, I feel like the gear is the one where most people will forget something. You usually know the clothes you want to wear because you have to like put it all on in order to leave. Maybe a hat, maybe gloves, maybe the muff. I think the gear is where this checklist will pave the way. So whether you put it, in your bow case, whether you put it in the truck, the shop, the garage, I think you just look down this list and you're like, yep, got it all. But pretty simple right off the bat. Easiest thing to forget, your license. Make sure you have your license before you go deer hunting, deer camp, on for the weekend. From there, bow and arrows. Big, obviously, want the arrows. Most people aren't forgetting their arrows. Broadheads, making sure you have your broadheads on your arrows. I've never forgot that, but I wanted to make sure we put it on the list. Quiver, release. Remember your release. I always nowadays take my release off. I strap it around my sight, so it's always strapped to my bow. That's where I store my release. And that's one hack so you never forget your release. So then we go into binos, rangefinder, wind indicator, bino bivy. 4 things that are always on my chest in my bino bivy. Then you go into, and this may not apply if you're a private land hunter. Maybe it does if you don't have a set where you're going to go, but tree stand carrier, and we're going to go on next week's bonus episode. We're going to go deep into the run and gun setup I've been using lately and loving. So we won't get into it too much here, but you need your tree stand carrier, saddle or harness, lineman rope, tether, lifeline, same thing. Make sure you have that. Your climbing sticks. I put aiders on here. I think a lot of us are rocking aiders. If you don't know what an aider is like a rope ladder that you attach to the bottom of your stick. Usually you're using, a smaller stick. When I grew up, we were always had like the big 3-step sticks or even a 20-foot connected ladder that everyone used. Nowadays in my running gun setup, I have a 2-step stick. It's literally like 18 inches tall. And then on the bottom of that, I put an aider that has 3 more rope or braided step sections. And so with 2 sticks and 2 aiders, I can get my platform to about 15 feet. So it's really cool way to save weight on a running gun setup. And we put them on the list. Backpack. Now, things that go in the backpack, here's another things you could probably forget. Grunt tube, rattling antlers, headlamp. Did you leave it in the truck from the last thing you were doing? Is it in your other backpack? Is it at home? Make sure you got your headlamp, a bow hanger, and a gear hanger. I actually just custom made a bow hanger for run and gun on public, since here in Minnesota, we aren't allowed to screw in bow hangers into our trees on public land. Same with gear hangers. So we'll talk about that in next week's episode too, how I hacked this thing together for about $15 at Fleet Farm, and it's sweet. Knife, game bag set. This one was maybe a bold choice. I put it on there because I use game bags when I go whitetail hunting, especially out of town. I will usually quarter a whitetail at our family farms. I'll just quarter it on one corner of the farm, put it in a game bag, put it in the cooler, bring it home. That way I don't have to deal with the carcass. I don't have to deal with the hide. I don't have to deal with all the mess. I don't have to gut it. I always do the gutless method. So I put game bags on here. I don't know. Let me know in the comments on this podcast, or send us an email and see what you would do if in that situation, if you're rocking the game bags or not. I throw a tree saw on here. So if you're on public land, obviously you're not cutting down trees, but if you're on private land, I always throw a tree saw in my truck. You never know when you're going to have to adjust a camera. You're going to have to trim out a tree. You're going into a stand you haven't been in a while. I'll bring the tree saw with me, a hand saw, just in case. Or usually I have a pole saw in my truck for all of hunting season. So that's a good one. Trail cams, you never know. You might want to be bringing these Reveal Ultras if you win, or just if you take your trail cams down, it's a good thing to have. Maybe always throw a backup one. I always usually have one when I'm running around on public land in my bag in case I want to throw one out. So I always have a trail camera. Bow hoist, how are you going to get your bow up the tree? I used to just put it across my shoulders. I don't do that anymore. I always bring a bow hoist. We'll talk about how I use a bow hoist. I made my own in next week's episode. And then lastly, emergency kit. I feel like we could do a whole podcast on what you should have in your emergency kit, but we're not going to do that. But my buddy did say one good tip to put in your emergency kit or in your wallet is your blood type. And I never really thought about this, but yeah, if you have a severe accident, just when they know your blood type right away, it can help save. They could get you blood faster. I never thought of that, but that could be a good thing to put in your wallet or your emergency kit. So that's the hunting gear. So we covered the first 2 columns. We covered clothes. We covered hunting gear. The last column is deer camp gear. So this is for the folks that, if you're just going out for the evening, you probably aren't bringing all this stuff. Maybe if you're going for the full day sit, but you're coming back home, you're probably not bringing all this stuff. But if you're going to deer camp for the week, for the weekend, out of state, you're probably bringing this stuff. And so I put it on there. If you don't need it, you don't have to fill it out. But it's on there, and we'll run through it really, really fast. But before we do, let's release the code word for this week is going to be, what should we pick? Let's go with Ultra, because we're giving away 2 Reveal Ultras. So let's make the code word for this episode be ultra. So if you go to getdrawnwest.com/giveaway, and if you're not signed up yet, get signed up while you're there. Getdrawnwest.com/giveaway. There's a link literally everywhere. All of our socials, all of our link in bios. Go to the website. There'll be a link anywhere you see our stuff. Get signed up. Go to the bottom. In the bottom, there's a section. You sign up at the top, then it's the Instagram. You've already done that. Then it's the subscribe to the podcast. You've already done that. The next section is code words. Each code word, there's 4 spots that you can sign up. They're for episodes 21. This is episode 22. Next week's 23. The next bonus one after that's 24. Go to episode 22. The code word is ultra. Hit claim. If you enter it right, it'll give you 20 points, and your bottom total at the bottom will update. Hopefully by that point, you're at 41, 61, depends on how many podcasts you listen to. But ultra is the code word for this week. So don't miss out on this giveaway. Let's rock through the deer camp gear real fast. So sleeping bag, pillow, cot, air pad. 4th kind of essentials. If you got a bed, obviously you're not maybe bringing all this stuff. Pillow, maybe. Just cross it off if you don't need it. You don't have to use it, but if you are going to a true deer camp, maybe you are bringing your sleeping bag, pillow, cot, air pad. I don't know. Put it on there. From there, food cooler. What are you bringing food? Probably you got to eat. So bring the food cooler. Cooking system, cooking fuel. I don't know what everyone's deer camps look like. Sometimes I've been to deer camps where I bring my Blackstone and some propane. I've been to deer camps when I bring my pellet grill and pellets. I've been to deer camps where I don't bring anything because it's at my parents' house and we just cook inside their house. I've been to deer camps where I bring a jet boil and jet boil fuel. So how are you going to cook your food? I think most people, maybe you leave that at your deer camp, maybe you don't, but either way, you're not going to forget it because it's on the list. With that, a lighter, your food, your water, drinks, plates, utensils, Ziplocs, garbage bags, all the things that kind of go with camp, right? Taking care of camp. One thing I will say with the food cooler, the RTIC 72 quart cooler, it's got wheels, it's got dividers, it's got a cargo net in the lid. So you put your ketchup up there and you don't have to dig through all that ice water to find the ketchup. Money. Moving right along. Then we get into some of the, necessity stuff, toiletries, toilet paper, a toilet setup. What kind of deer camp is this? Are you really roughing it in a tent? Then you might want to bring the Coleman or whatever Ozark Trail bucket toilet seat lid in a 5-gallon pail with a garbage bag. Works really well. Maybe you're going to your mom and dad's house and you don't have to worry about it at all. Great. Wet wipes. If you're camping, you'll want the wet wipes. Game meat cooler. Maybe you need it. Maybe you don't. Maybe your food cooler is big enough. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're going to shoot 3 deer. I always bring a game meat cooler. We just brought our Arctic 145, and we put 2 does in it, and then we could put about as much ice as we had meat, and that stayed really, really cold. So I'm usually bringing a big cooler. We're bringing the 145 out mule deer hunting as well. But if you plan on shooting a lot of deer or you plan on bringing like a small food cooler, you might want another cooler for your game meat on the way home. Maybe it's cold enough you don't have to worry about it. Maybe you leave your meat there at the processor. I don't know. But if you need it, you won't forget it. Now, if this is a true deer camp, right? True, we do it all. We're going for the week. There's a bunch of things in here that I always bring when we go up to Alexandria, because I have a bunch of things that I use when we harvest a deer to process it and hang it and all that stuff, but I don't buy duplicates to leave in Alec and here at the farm. So I just bring it up, bring it back. A deer hanging system. I got the one I really like linked here. It breaks down. It's got the gambrel. It's got a 4-to-1 hoist, so you can hoist your deer up, tie it off. You can jack it way up in the air, do everything you need to do, hang your deer. It works really good, and it's like super cheap. It's on Amazon. I've got it linked. I have 2 or 3 of them, actually, to be honest with you, so we can hang 2 or 3 deer at deer camp. Hide claws. Got these linked as well. These are super sweet. We don't have the cool like tennis ball and rope tricks set up, But if you have a fresh deer and you get these hide claws, they're like giant pliers with like giant teeth that like grab the hide. You get everything started, you trim the legs, you get it like past the tail, then you clamp onto that with those big pliers. You just pull, and you pull the whole hide off almost. So I think they're like $15. So I always bring those. Meat lugs and boning knives. Typically at deer camp, we are boning out and doing all the processing ourselves. We DIY all of our own processing. So I bring a bunch of meat lugs. Those are the big white totes, like 50 pounds of like meat at a time. You know, we get in 4 or 5 of them, and it's like steaks go in this one, roasts go in that one, trim meat goes in this one. Usually there's 2 or 3 trim meat buckets because you got to go through all the stuff. It's a really nice, easy way to process deer by having your own. We did it a long time with like metal bowls and random like things that we stole from my mom's kitchen or borrowed from my mom's kitchen. The meat lugs are the way to go, folks. Boning knives, a good boning knife, and it doesn't have to be good. Like I've got the one I use on here. It's from Meat, your maker. It's like 15, 20 bucks, 30 bucks. Way better than your big old buck knife with an 1/8 inch steel or 1/4 inch steel blade. A boning knife that has a flex in it's sweet. So I've got that on there. Maybe you got the grinder. Maybe you're the guy that owns the grinder in the group. So don't forget the grinder. Everyone's going to be mad at you if you get to deer camp and you don't have a grinder. And with that, if you are DIY processing your deer, don't forget your ground meat bags, your hog rings, twist ties, bone saw, those types of things. We got those on the list as well. So that's bringing us right down to the end. Now here's just a couple things. Soft side measuring tape. Shed Season actually makes a killer soft side retractable tape, because you know as soon as you shoot the buck or anyone shoots a buck in camp, people are going to want to start scoring it. So I always bring one of these. I usually have one in my truck anywhere I go. If someone shoots a deer, I can boom. That is a 6.5 inch mass measurement, right? It's awesome. I use it in shed season. I use it at deer camp. It's great. I got a second one in my office because I got so many sheds behind me on the wall that I'm always scoring and rescoring. But soft side measuring tape, chargers for your electronics, a bow target. If you're going to bow camp, if you're going to deer camp for archery, you're going to want a bow target or a way to shoot your bow. And then lastly, a knife sharpener. I have this one right here. One of my bad habits is I like to sharpen knives when I'm bored on conference calls. So I'm just here sharpening things all day long. This is a really, really good one. This is the Work Sharp. It's kind of portable. The other thing that I do in here is I break this open and I have the end of a little arrow with my outsert, and I can I can screw in a broadhead into this little arrow, and then I can take this sharpener. Now I have a handle to sharpen my broadhead. So little hack, fits right in the bottom of there, and then you magnet this plate back. Oh, sorry, folks, you couldn't see that. Fits right in the bottom here, and then you put this back on and it magnets in. This is a really good one. I also have a smaller one that's just preset ceramic angles. It's got like 17, 20, 25, and 30. I use them both. It just depends. I can get way sharper with this Work Sharp. It's got the leather strap on it too. I can get way sharper with this. So I do my broadheads with this. I'll maybe do like a good sharpen on this to start off processing. And then from there, I'll probably just do touch-ups with the little guy. But that's the list. And then if that doesn't have everything you need, there's 18 spots at the bottom where you can write in, or if you're on mobile, type in your own custom gear. Maybe you got to bring the big buck trophy. Maybe you got to bring the big buck bet money. Maybe you got to bring something random for Uncle Joe. I got to bring Uncle Joe's straps back. Don't forget. I got to bring a reveal cell cam to my brother on my next trip to deer camp. So there's a bunch of spots at the bottom. You can add your own gear. Like I said, we've got everything that you can save money on linked and identified, so you don't have to pay full price, because no one likes paying full price for gear. And that's the Mid-Season Archery Whitetail Checklist. Go print it out. It's free. You go to our website, getdrownwest.com/gear. You can get this. You can get the rifle elk. It's free to download. You can either print it off. You can use the mobile version and use the live check boxes. I just want to make sure no one gets to deer camp and you're like, shoot, I forgot my release. Shoot, I forgot my target. Shoot, I forgot the grinder, right? That's not fun. So That's why we built that. And one last time, if you are not signed up for our Reveal Ultra giveaway, 2 Reveal Ultras, somebody's winning 2 Reveal Ultras on November 16th. Giveaway ends November 15th. Our last bonus podcast is going to go out on November 13th. So you'll have 2 or 3 days to enter that last code word. But get yourself signed up. GetDrawnWest.com/giveaway. Hopefully it's ingrained in everyone's head by now because we've been doing so many cool giveaways. We've been so blessed by all the great companies that we work with, and Reveal letting us give away 2 reveals is a really, really cool way to give back to our community. So thank you for listening. And until next time, folks, stay drawn.